Okay, so the headstock's sanded down now. As you can see, the joints turn out nice, and it's very strong. And as for the glue, the joint will be harder than the glue itself. This is going to be overlaid, as I said, and we managed to sand these down without touching the tool cover. So now we're going to prepare the fingerboard for gluing, and we're going to set that to glue and then leave it overnight. So this is going to be one of the shorter episodes. So one thing you need to have are like protection for your clamps. Ideally you'll have bowed pieces like this to go on the outside of your fingerboard, so that it pushes the sides down. Now this is completely straight, so I'm not really worried about anything like that, but we are going to scrape it just to make sure. We have a little bump here we want to get rid of. And then I'm gonna prepare the glue. Now we're not going to put wood glue on the truss rod. So it's already glued in place. So we're going to mask that out. And this was so tight that we couldn't get any wood above it. Usually it sets a little lower than this, and I put pieces of wood in and then plane that off so it's all very even. But since this is so narrow, I'm gonna leave it like it is. Now you want to get all the glue that's off from before. And so that you have a nice wooden surface to glue onto. Now here's where scrapers are really good. Okay, so I moved this. This is a piece of maple that we're going to use as the base. And I moved it so that the headstock isn't touching the table or the bench. So now we're just going to line this up. Center lines, as always, are important, so we're going to mark those up again. Every time you sand and remove the center line, either try to find it again and maintain it, or just measure it again. As you can see here, my center line is still visible. I'm going to mark that up with this, because now precision is a key element. And also here, center line is visible but barely. So I'm going to put that mark right there. Now I know some people I still have this center line. I know people sometimes use nails and stuff to keep the fingerboard in place while gluing. I don't do that. I've never had a problem with it sliding around. But then I've never had a problem gluing a neck joint either. So maybe there's a couple of firsts with this build. We'll see. Now, let's see, can I find my center line? What I'm doing now is just refinding the center line on this side and drawing it up with this, I don't know what you call it, point marker or something. Okay, so I have my center line here. Now don't worry about marring this, we are going to be polishing it later on. So now let's line this all up and see how it fits. We want room for the nut in the front. So we're going to find the nut and place that there, and then we'll know the position of the fretboard. So let's see, that's in center. Okay, so there's where we want it, and there is where we want it. So I'm going to mark this up. And once this is glued, we're going to leave it for at least 24 hours. And then we're going to start routing the neck along the lines of the fingerboard. So that's it's going to be exciting. And once that is done, that's when the real building starts. And we're going to go into the body and stuff. I might yet do some small adjustments to the body shape. I'm not sure about the lower horn. I might cut that off at an angle so it's a little bit shorter, but still, so it'll be like that maybe. I think that would be cool, but we'll see once we get to that. So now we're going to use wood glue again. I'm going to just mask the truss rod again. Now this will not rattle in any way. It's too tight for any rattle, but it will move the neck if you adjust it, which is just what we want. As for these small knives, I use these. I could use a scalpel or something similar, but these are very cheap, and for I think even in Norway for like $5 you get a jar of these. I don't know how many is in the jar, probably like 20 or 30. So I would recommend getting those. Now trim off all the excess tape. There, looks pretty good. That's quite a bit of tape we're taking off now. Don't go too deep, but again this won't show, so if you need to go a little bit deep, then it's probably fine, as long as it's not producing valleys that'll keep the fingerboard elevated. I'm not measuring now, I'm just going by eye. So keep aligning this straight edge. Probably good. I'm gonna cut this off completely, and then I will leave some masking tape over this, protruding this way so I can take it out. But that I will use the super low tack for that because I don't want the tape to be visible. So it's just going to stay over there, and I will pull it out once the glue is hard. Now this low tack tape barely stays in place by anything, so it won't be a problem. This is just so the glue won't come out at the tool joint, and well, I'm calling this a tool joint, tool end of the truss rod. And I don't know, did I just cover everything? I'm calling this the tool end of the truss rod, so I'm just covering that so that any glue won't come out. It's just a visual thing, it won't affect the truss rod in any way. That's already been glued in, so I'm not really worried about anything like that at this point. Now if you do have a fret leveling beam such as this, I advise to go over like I did earlier, just to make sure that everything is flat and plain. If you don't have, I have this bench light here, so that makes me see any high spots. But if you don't have an ideal lighting situation, just use pencil lines and go over so that you can see if it's straight or not. I'm going to glue again and spread it around using one of my little sticks. That's spread well enough. And don't worry about the squeeze out now, you'll get it later. So that's a lot of squeeze out, so I'm going to get some of that now. Because we don't want the entire fingerboard to get glued to our bench. But the glue on the sides here and on the fretboard itself, it's nothing to worry about. This will be sanded off anyway, and we are going to use glue in the fret slots. Try not to do this. Try not to get glue inside the fret slots, because that's going to be a hassle to get out once you start fretting. So now position the fretboard. Like that. Okay. So there we go. Got quite a lot of glue on me now, but that's okay. So the first one we're going to place will be quite in the center of the fretboard, or away from the corner, and that is because it's easier to align if you don't have it on the sides. Can you see that? It's pretty dead on, dead center. And we're going to place one here at the back. Alright. So that's it for now. We're going to leave this glued up.